place, and the second one is I always forget to wait for that. One poured the first water is in one place, and the second water is in a different place. And a loaf of truma fell. If it fell into the first waters, it's tameh, but if it fell into the second waters, it's tahor. If he poured the first and second waters in one place, and the loaf of truma fell in there, it's tameh. If one poured the first waters and a splinter of gravel was found in his hands are tameh, because the waters purify only the waters that were on the hand. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says regarding any organism that originates in the water, it's tahor. Hands become tameh and become tahor only up to the joint. How so? If one poured the first waters until the joint and the second beyond the joint, and they are returned to the hand, his hand is tahor. If one poured the first and second waters beyond the joint and they return to the hand, his hand is tameh. If one poured the first waters on one hand and then he changed his mind and poured the second waters on both hands, the hands are tameh. If one poured the first waters over both hands and he changed his mind and poured the second waters over one hand, his hand is tahor. If one poured water over one hand and he rubbed it on the other, it is tameh, and if he rubbed it on his head or on a wall, it's tahor. 4 or 5 people can wash his hands side by side or one above the other, provided they loosen their hands so that the waters can enter between them. If it is certain whether work was done with the water or work was not done with the water, or it was uncertain whether the water has the requisite amount or does not have the requisite amount, or if it is uncertain whether the water is tamei or tahor, these certain uncertainties are ruled tahor. For they said, an uncertainty pertaining to hands, whether in regard to becoming tamei or conveying tuma, or to becoming tahor, is ruled tahor. Rabbi Yossi says a case of uncertainty whether they became tahor is ruled tamei. How so? A person's hands were tahor before him with 2 tamei loaves, and it was uncertain whether he touched them or he did not touch them, or his hands were tamei. And before him were 2 tahor loaves, and it's uncertain whether he touched them or he did not touch them, or one of his hands was tamei and the other was tahor. And before him were 2 tahor loaves, and he touched them. He touched one of them, but it is uncertain whether he touched it with the tamei hand or the tahor hand. Or his hands were tahor, and before him were 2 loaves, one of which was tamei, and the other tahor. And he touched one of them, but was uncertain whether he touched the tamei or he touched the tahor one. Or one of his hands was tamei and one was tahor, and before him were 2 loaves, one of which was tamei and the other tahor. And he touched both of them, but it's uncertain whether the tamei hand touched the tamei loaf and the tahor touched the tahor loaf, or the tahor touched the tamei loaf and the tamei hand touched the tahor loaf. The hands remained as they were, and the loaves remained as they were.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Okay, so here comes an interesting situation. So if you've got a house that's got terrace, and you go inside and spend enough time in oh no, never mind. A person who walks inside a bayis hamenuga immediately becomes tamei, and if he stays long enough, then his clothing also becomes tamei. Okay, we're not looking at the clothing now. We're just looking at the body. So a guy sticks just his hand into the bayis hamenuga. Okay, now that's not the majority of his body, so his body is not going to become tamei. Now the question is, do his hands become tamei? And Rabbi Akiva says yes, his hands become not just tamei, but they become rishon latuma. Okay, which is now if somebody now that's what would happen to your entire body if a person walked into the house. The house is an avatuma, and a person who walks into the house becomes a rishon latuma. And now Rabbi Akiva is saying that his hands in isolation will become a rishon latuma. Chachamim omrim yadav shnios. No, hands cannot become hands do not independently become any worse than sheni latuma. And therefore, he stuck his hands in, his hand becomes a sheni latuma, and that's it, no higher than that. Kol hamatame begadim b'shas maga'o. Anything that causes a person to make his clothing tamei at the time that he touches it. But tamei sayadayim lios techilos, Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva says that in any circumstance where a person will be matame begadim. So do you have any examples of that? For example, a person who touches a zav or on a mishkav or a person's or a zav's spittle, okay, or a zava or a nida these sources of tumah are matame begadim and kalim that are touching him at the time that he touches the tumah. So his clothing would also become tameh. Okay. So now in such a circumstance, says Rabbi Akiva, his hands become a rishon.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, that Nope. If it's an independent thing and the body somehow does not manage to become tameh, but just the hands, then the hands become a sheni. Okay. Amru lo Rabbi Akiva. So the Chachamim said to Rabbi Akiva, how do you come to this? Heichan metzina sheyadayim techila b'chol makom. Is there anywhere else that the hands become a rishon in isolation? Yes, we know that the Chachamim made a tumah shnia on the hands anytime that you even take your attention off them. Okay, they
Right.
automatically become a sheni l'tumah. But a rishon, we've never heard of such a thing. Rabbi Akiva answers back, Amar lahem, v'chi heach efshar lahen lios techila. Elim kain nitma gufo. Um, and so hold on. So he says back, how is it possible for them to become a rishon unless his body became tameh, uh, except in such a case? He says no. There's no the hands don't become. How is it possible for his hands to become tameh independent of his body? It's already a chiddush. So don't come and bring me an arguments against it when already we're talking about a chiddush, the fact that hands can become tameh independently of the body. We're already not in the bounds of logical extrapolation because this is a devar chiddush that Chachamim made. Ha'ochlim va'kelim shenitmeu. And back to the things that they argue about. So food or kalim that became tameh from a liquid. So remember, the liquid that becomes tameh becomes a rishon and is matame everything that it touches to be a rishon. Okay, that's again by Gezeres Chazal. Matame is hayadayim lios shnios divrei Rabbi Yeshua. So similar argument over here that this liquid makes hands into shnios, says Rabbi Yeshua. Chachamim omrim es shenitma ba'avatuma matame es hayadayim. Is it only those things that became tameh from an avhatuma will be matame yadayim? Bevladatuma, but if it became tameh from a so things that became tameh from an avatuma, in other words, from a rishon will be matame the hands to be a sheni. But bevladatuma, if it became tameh from a rishon, in other words, the thing that became tameh is really a sheni. Eino matame es hayadayim. That will not make the hands tameh because the hands become tameh to be a sheni, and a sheni cannot make a sheni. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Maaseh be'isha achas shebas lifnei Abba. I have a case that I remember that where somebody where a woman came to ask a shaila from my father, in other words, Rabban Gamliel. Amar lo, nichnasu yaday la'avir kli cheres. She said to him, my hand went into the airspace of a kli cheres. Okay, kli cheres, remember, is matame and becomes tame from its airspace. Amarla, so he asked her the question, BT, Ubama haisa tumaso, and how did that kli cheres become tame? Ulo shamati ma amarlo. But I didn't hear any further than that because whatever, I was a kid and my parents took me out the room or something like that. But whatever, he didn't hear what the maskana was. He just heard that Rabban Gamliel asked her the question. So Chachamim said, "Aha, that proves our point. Mavor hadavar. That absolutely proves the point. Because if he's asking a question that's going to be mavchin, then it makes a difference what made the kli tameh.
No.
If the kli became tameh from an avatuma, then the oven's a rishon, and the hands will become sheni. Mitame is hayadayim. Bevladatuma, however, if the oven became tameh from a vladhatuma, from a rishon, in other words, the only way that could happen really is from a liquid. So if a liquid touched a rishon, then it also becomes a rishon and it will be matame the oven. However, in terms of hands, we're not going to go that machmir. Eino matame es hayadayim. So the Chachamim say this proves our point, and the halacha follows the Chachamim, not Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yeshua. Okay, Mishnah base. Kol posel is a truma. Following on in the same thing, we're going to have a similar argument. Kol posel is a truma metame es hayadayim lios shnios. Anything that is able to be posel truma, in other words, a sheni. Metame es hayadayim lios shnios. Metame es hayadayim that touched him in order to be a shnios. V'hayad metama es chaverta divrei Rabbi Yeshua. So again, this is Rabbi Yeshua who was making the argument in the previous Mishnah that a kli cheres. Let's just go back to what Rabbi Yeshua said in the previous Mishnah. He said that even ochlim and kalim that became tamei with the liquid, in other words, they became a rishon, although they technically really should not be higher than a sheni, they will be matame the yadayim. So Rabbi Yeshua is going saying even further over here that even if something is already a sheni, it can be matame hands to be a sheni. Okay, Chachamim omrim ein sheni ose sheni. Sorry, once something's a sheni, it cannot be matame the hands. The hands will become a shlishi, and the hands do not become a shlishi. Okay, Amar lahem v'lo kisvei kodesh shniim matame nesayadayim. But we have an example of this. We have kisvei kodesh. Kisvei kodesh are considered a sheni l'tumah. They paskin this tumah sheni on kisvei kodesh. Remember, because of truma. You remember this whole thing about truma, because people were storing the truma with their kisvei kodesh, and then the mice were coming and to eat the truma, and they were also destroying the kisvei kodesh. So they made them tameh in order not to that people would not keep truma in the same place. Okay. And that also is matame yadayim if you touch the scrolls. Amru lo ein danin divrei Torah mi divrei sofrim. Sorry, you cannot make kal vachomer or binyan av or anything like that. All the lamdas of the 13 ways that Rabbi Yishmael said of learning the Torah, that's talking about midoraisa. You cannot make kal v'chomer or binyan av or any kind of thing like that on divrei sofrim. In other words, rabbanans. V'lo divrei sofrim mi divrei Torah. V'lo divrei sofrim mi divrei sofrim. Sorry, no kal v'chomer here. That is a unique situation that Chazal paskin that scrolls can be matame yadayim to be sheni, but that does not apply in any other circumstance. Okay. Ritzuas tefillin im hatfillin. Now, what about straps of tefillin that are attached to the tefillin? Okay, do those act as an extension? Because remember, tefillin have got scrolls inside them, and scrolls have got a tumah shniya on them. Okay, metamos es hayadayim. So this is the Tanna Kama says that it makes they make your hands tameh. Okay. Rabbi Shimon but Rabbi Shimon disagrees and says, no, the straps don't make a person's hands tameh. Okay, so now that's us every day. We put on tefillin and they touch our hands with the straps. Okay, and that actually, yes, does the halacha does follow the Tanna Kama that the straps make your hands tameh. So there you go. If you're having a meal, you shouldn't be putting on your tefillin at the same time, because that will make your hands tameh again. You'll have to wash again.
Yeah, because it says that the halacha doesn't follow Reb Shimon.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Tvul Yom.
No. If a barrel of wine developed a hole, whether in its top, its bottom, or its side, and the table you don't touch it there, all the wine in the barrel is tameh. Rabbi Yehuda says if the hole is at the top or the bottom of the barrel, all the wine is tameh. But if the hole is in the side, the wine on this side and then on that side is tahor. If one is pouring liquid from one vessel to another vessel and a tevel yom touch the stream, if there is a sufficient volume of tahor liquid in the receiving vessel, the tameh liquid is nullified in a mixture of 101. Concerning a bubble in the wall of a barrel that was punctured both on the inside and on the outside, whether at the top or the bottom, if the holes are opposite each other, they become tameh if touched by an avatuma. It is tameh if it is under the same roof as a corpse. And if the inside hole is at the bottom and the outside hole is at the top, it becomes tameh if touched by an avatuma, and the tameh if it is under the same roof as a corpse. If the inside hole is at the top and the outside hole is at the bottom, it remains tahor if touched by an avatuma, but it is tummy if it is under the same roof as a corpse. All yados of foods that are considered connected in the case of an avatuma are considered connected in the case of a tabayom. Regarding a piece of food that's separated into two parts, but is still partially attached. The mayor says if he grabs and lifts the largest part and the smaller part comes up with it, then it is one. Rabbi Yehuda says if he grabs and lifts the smaller part and the larger part comes up with it, then it is one with it. Then the Chama says if he grabs the tahor part by the sages, he then the Chama says he grabs it by the tahor part, but the Chachamim say he grabs it by the tame part. And regarding all other foods by which is ordinarily grasped by the leaf is grasped by the leaf, and that which is ordinarily grasped by the stalk is grasped by the stalk. Regarding a vegetable
I
truma
know
with a
that's
beet,
it.
that was it. That's all I
Yeah.
asked.
Machshirin,
Okay.
base, at least.
Okay. Base. Regarding a bathhouse that is tummy, its preparation is tummy. And a tahor bathhouse, its preparation is included in the law of if water is placed. Regarding a pool in a house, and the house expires on its account, if it is tummy, then the perspiration of the entire house that is on account of the pool is tummy. Regarding two pools of which one is tahor and one is tummy, that which perspires closest to the tummy pool, its perspiration is tummy. But that which perspires closer to the tahor pool, its perspiration is tahor. And that's what is equidistant between the two pools, its perspiration is tummy. Regarding a piece of tummy iron that was mixed with a piece of tahor iron, the greater part of the mixture is from the tummy iron. It is tummy, but if the greater part of the mixture is from the tahor iron, it is tahor. If the mixture consists half of the tummy iron and half of the tahor iron, it is tummy. Regarding chamber pots into which both Jews and non-Jews urinate, if it is the greater part of the urine is in the pot consists of the tummy urine, the mixture is tummy. But if the greater part consists of the tahor urine, the mixture is tahor. And if the mixture consists half of tummy, half of the tahor, it is tummy. Regarding wastewater in which rainwater fell, if the greater part of the mixture of water is from the tummy water, the water is tummy. But if the greater part of the mixture is from tahor water, the mixture is tahor. If the mixture consists half of tummy water and half of tahor water, the water is tummy. When is this? When the wastewater preceded the rainwater. But if the rainwater preceded the wastewater, even only a minute amount, the mixture is tummy. Regarding one who tars his roof or washes his garment and rain fell on them, if the greater part of the mixture is from the tummy water, the water is tummy. If the greater part of the mixture is from the tahor water, the mixture is tahor. If the mixture is half from tummy and half from tahor water, the water is tummy. If Yehuda says if they increase, they're dripping.
Okay.
Okay, that was it.
That's it. Yeah. Para, Yud, Vav.
Okay. If the flask of mekatos, such a flask of sacrificial food or of truma, the flask of mekatos is rendered tummy, whereas the flask of sacrificial foods or of truma is declared tahor. If both flasks are in his two hands, both of them are rendered tummy. If both flasks are wrapped in separate papers, both of them are tahor. If the flask of mekatos is wrapped in paper and the flask of truma is placed directly in his hand, both are rendered tummy. If the flask of truma is wrapped in paper and the flask of mekatos is directly in his hand, both of them are tahor. And Yehuda says the flask of mekatos is rendered tameh. If they were placed on the ground and he touched them, the flask of mekatos is tameh, whereas the flask of sacrificial foods or the truma is tahor. And if he caused them to move, Rabbi Yeshua declares it tameh, and the sages declare it tahor. A flask containing mekatos that someone left uncovered and upon returning and finds it covered is unfit for mekatos use. If he left it covered and upon returning and he found it uncovered, if a weasel could drink from it or a snake, according to the words of Rabbi Gamliel, or the stew descends into the flask at night, the mekatos is unfit for katos use. Katos is not saved from tuma by sealed cover. However, water that is not sanctified is saved from tuma by means of a sealed cover. Okay.
One more.
Any tuma uncertainty that is ruled tahor with regard to tuma is ruled tahor with regard to katos. Any tuma uncertainty that is ruled suspended with regard to tuma is spilled out with regard to katos. If tahor items were paired on its basis, they are suspended. Screens are tahor with regard to sacrificial foods, tuma, and katos. Reb Elia says loosely connected boards are tameh with regard to katos.
Okay. Free sauce.
Okay, well, if there was a piece of Caleb and a piece of sanctified fat, if he ate one of them and is not known which one of them he ate, he must bring an asham tole. If he ate the second piece of it, he must bring a katos and an unconditional asham. If one person ate the first piece and another came and ate the second piece, this one must bring an asham tuli, and if the other, and that one must bring an asham tuli. If Shimon says they both bring a katos and an asham, and Rav Yossi says two do not bring a katos and an asham. If there was a piece of Caleb and a piece of sanctified Caleb, if he ate one of them and is not known which one of them he ate, he must bring a katos. If Akiva says he must bring an asham too. If he ate the second piece, he must bring two katos and an unconditional asham. If one person ate the first piece and another came and ate the second piece, this one must bring a katos and that must bring a katos. Rabbi Kiva says this one must bring an asham tuli, and the other one says bring an asham tuli. And Rabbi Shimon says this one brings a katos and one brings a katos, and they both bring one asham. And Yossi says two do not bring one asham. And there was a piece of Caleb and a piece of Caleb that was no ser. If one ate of them and is not known which of them he ate, he must bring a katos and an asham tuli, and he must bring the second piece. He must bring three katos. If one person ate the first piece and another came and ate the second piece, this one must bring a katos and an asham tuli, and that one must bring a katos and an asham tuli. If Shimon says this one brings a katos and that one brings a katos, and both must bring a third katos. If Yossi says any katos that comes for sin, two may not bring it.
Okay. Baba Kama.
Okay. Hey, Zion, hey. If he sold it except for 1/100th of it, or if he had joint ownership in it, and he slaughtered it and became disqualified, if he pierced its nostrils and tore out the throat organs, he pays the twofold payment, but he does not pay the fourfold or fivefold payment. If one stole in the owner's premises and slaughtered or sold outside the premises, or if he sold outside the premises and slaughtered and sold within their premises, if he sold and slaughtered or he sold outside their premises, he pays the fourfold or fivefold amount. But if he stole and slaughtered or sold in the premises, he is exempt. If he was taking it out by dragging and it died in the premises of the owner, he is exempt. If he lifted it or he took it out of the owner's premises and it died, he's liable. If he gave it for redemption of his firstborn son or his creditor to an unpaid guardian, to a borrower, paid guardian, or a renter, or he was dragging it and it died in the premises of the owner, he's exempt. If he lifted it up, took it out of the owner's premises, and it died, he's liable. We may not raise small cattle in Eretz Yisrael, but we may raise them in Syria or in the wildernesses that are Eretz Yisrael. We may not raise chickens in Yerushalayim because they're consecrated things, nor may Kohanim throughout all Eretz Yisrael because of the ritually key foods. In no place may we raise swine. A person may not raise a dog unless it's bound with a chain. We may not spread nets for doves unless it's 30 reefs from an inhabited place. And praise how much, I'm sorry, and I made a mistake. All right. If one wounds another, he becomes liable to him for 5 categories: for injury,
No,
for
no, no, no,
pain.
no. That's it. We finished with Baba Kama.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Ervin.
Zion. If a canal passes through a courtyard, we may not draw water from it on Shabbos unless they made a partition 10 tefachim high at the inlet and at the outlet. Rabbi Yehuda says the wall over is considered a partition. Rabbi Yehuda says it happened that there was
Yehuda.
a
Huh? Oh,
Rabbi Yehuda, right? Did I skip something?
yeah, he said Rabbi Shimon.
Rabbi Shimon. Oh, Rabbi Yehuda says the wall over is considered a partition, and said Rabbi Yehuda, it has happened that there was a real canal in it in Avel, in which they drew water on the Sabbath upon the ruling of the sages. They answered him because it did not have a minimum dimensions. If a balcony is above the water, we may not draw water from it on Sabbath unless they made a partition 10 shvatim high, either from above or from below. Similarly, 2 balconies, one above the other, if they made a partition for the upper one but did not make one for the lower one, both are prohibited unless they make an error. If a courtyard is less than 4 cubits, we may not pour water into it on Shabbos unless they made a pit which can hold 2 saw before the opening, whether on the outside or the inside. Except that on the outside he must cover it, and whereas on the inside he need not cover it.
Okay.
Good.
And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful day.
Have a good day. Enjoy a great day. Thank you.